Right, hello, and welcome to another episode of Tamara Unfiltered. I've actually lost count of what episode we're on right now, but just thank you again for joining me for another show. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, today is the full moon. I have all five of my children in the house. I've just given them all a packet of crisps and a drink and told them to go upstairs, and if they make any sound, well, that's it. I'm just done with parenting. So let's just hope they keep quiet, but excuse me if I'm a bit on edge. I always feel weird filming in the house. I think it's because this podcast as well, I'm obviously talking about them. So better to talk about people behind their backs, eh? Anyway, joking. Right. This week's podcast, I want to talk about my pregnancies because I think after I did the smoking cannabis while pregnant and breastfeeding podcast, I felt like the natural follow-up would be to do this podcast, and then we've obviously had a couple in between then. Anyway, before I go into that, I just want to give you a little update on the NMN situation because you've just been so amazing and so supportive. And whilst I'm not going to lie to you, the pre-order, it hasn't gone as well as I thought it would go and as quick as thought it would go. But that's because I have very wild dreams and big goals, right? In the grand scheme of things, we're doing well. And I don't know, it's been 2 weeks since I basically launched it, and I'd say I'm about a third of the way to what I need. Now, the other day I kind of proposed to the company that I pay them a third of the money and then they give me basically a month to get together the rest. And they were just like, no, we can't do that. However, we can accept half of the money and we will start production, and then you don't have to pay the rest until like production has finished basically. And I don't know why I'm so silly because I hadn't actually factored in production time. I just, in my head, I was just like, you've just got to get this money, then you can get the NMN. No, got to get it produced. So the fact that they've actually agreed to this is still really big and really helpful because it's kind of what I needed anyway. It's going to take 3 weeks to produce and a week to deliver. So I've basically got 4 weeks from I send them the initial payment, which is going to be in the next couple of days, to get the rest of the money together. And I mean, honestly, whatever I got to do, I'm going to make it happen. I'm so excited about this NMN. And I've just been learning so much more along this journey about this stuff. And I don't know, it's interesting. And I think I'm in even more love with it. Anyway, I just wanted to say your pre-orders still really matter. And if you have pre-ordered, I just wanted you to know how much I appreciate that because I do understand I'm asking you guys a lot. I was like, hey, buy this product. And then I was like, hey, I've got a better one, buy mine, but you can't have it for a while. And I do understand you got to really love me to actually agree to those terms. And I'm grateful. I've even got flipping 10 of you to agree to this. So just thank you. If you've pre-ordered, you're I don't know, you're helping some really cool shit come together. Anyway, we're going to get on with this week's podcast. As most of you will know, I am a mother to 5 mostly wonderful children. And I wanted to just tell you about all 5 of my pregnancies, or at least what I can remember of them, because honestly, 3, I don't know, trauma, depression, massive amounts of cannabis. My memory's not the best, but I'm just going to tell you as best I can. Plus as well, you can get a bit higher when you're in labour, and yeah, the memories can be hazy. But I just want to talk to you because I've obviously had 5 pregnancies and labours now, births, and this is actually more about the births than the pregnancies themselves. But I just wanted to talk you through them because they've all been so different. And I don't know, it's been a wild ride to say the least. Do you know what? It's funny because at the end of this podcast, I've literally written this is so great, you should do it today. I'm like, go and get sterilised, honestly, save yourself. But I know that feeling will pass. Anyway, most of you know I've got 5 children. I have somehow managed to have all 5 of them alone. And that has meant I have basically been on my own throughout all of my pregnancies. And honestly, pregnancy it's never been my best time. I am not on my best form at all. In fact, I can be quite a monster. I am not a good pregnant person. Literally, as I've written here, I am a straight psychopath every single time. I'm just looking at my show notes. And honestly, I think it's because I'm suddenly at the centre of 2 universes, and that's a lot. I mean, it's a lot to be at the centre of your own universe, isn't it? Let alone suddenly be put in the centre of 2 universes. And I think as well, because I do make strong babies, I do make good babies, and I think that's why I always get so sick. So on top of being psychotic, I am just throwing up. And none of my pregnancies have been a good experience, to be honest with you. And do you know what? Oh my God, look. And I've literally just written here, I want to make this podcast helpful and not just a waffle. So I want to start with this. And this is so important because let me work backwards, because it took to my 5th and final pregnancy to actually discover this. And if I had discovered this in my first pregnancy, I probably would have had 20 kids by now, because I'm so sick in all my pregnancies. It's just almost unbearable. But in my 5th pregnancy, I don't even know how I discovered it, but someone mentioned like a lack of iron making you feel sick. So I got some Floradix, and I shit you not, because I will never forget this. Like, this is one of the memories that is firm and strong in my mind. I took the Floradix, and the next day my morning sickness was gone, and it was gone. Like, I had no more. And I am the person who, the 4 pregnancies prior to that, I was literally just like that from the minute I woke up. Sometimes from the minute I went to sleep. Morning sickness is a myth. It was like all fucking day sickness. Anyway, so I took the Floradix, and it had literally gone by the next day. It was I can't even find the words. Complete game changer. Absolutely mind blowing how much a little bit of iron can make that much of a difference. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you that, because if you're pregnant or planning on getting pregnant, get yourself some good plant-based iron. That's why I was taking the Floradix, because that's as far as I know and what I know, as far as I know and what I'm aware of, that is the best plant-based iron. Anyway, 5 pregnancies, every single one of them were fucking terrible, and but 10 out of 10 I've written here, I'd probably do it again. And honestly, I'd not in this lifetime, but I would. I don't know, I've done 4 of these labours I've actually done with nothing but gas and air. And I obviously, my first labour with Rocco was the unnatural one. That was the one I was like, give me everything. But I'm just going to talk you through each one of my labours and pregnancies. And if you've got any questions and you want to ask, I guess I'm not the authority on parenting, but I have had 5 children. And if you're ever curious to ask me anything about my children and parenting, feel free. My DMs are open. Anyway, Rocco, as you well know, is my oldest child. He was my firstborn. I was 19 when I had him. Actually, I was 19 when I was pregnant, and I gave birth to him a week after my 20th birthday. But I don't know. Pregnancy was awful. I was sick the entire time. That pregnancy was particularly, I can't believe it. Do you know, it's funny, I'm reading from my show notes. I've started writing show notes, and I wrote this like last week, and I've forgotten I'd written this, and now today's the full moon, and well, if I start crying, I'm really sorry, but just know if I'd actually filmed this last week when I'd planned to, I would have been fine. But my pregnancy with Rocco was quite traumatic for many reasons, but the main reason being I don't even know how to tell this story. So my dad, who you all know is not my biological dad, but the man who raised me, who I call dad, when he divorced my mum, he got remarried, and he went on to have children with my stepmum. Now, they were pregnant when I was pregnant with Rocco, but she was obviously a lot further along than me. And they had my little brother. And that went terribly fucking wrong. Really fucking wrong. He was born, and something happened. You know, sometimes it's just a few minutes will fuck up your whole life. They basically left him. Do you know what as well? I want to start this by saying something, and I don't think I can be sued. This is my podcast. I'll say my fucking truth. But St Helier Hospital in Carshalton is a negligent. I have no other words. They're just a negligent, terrible hospital. If I had a problem now and the choice was to go to St Helier or stay home and die, I'd probably fucking stay home and die. They're incompetent, negligent, and just all round fucked up. Now, they had majorly fucked up with my stepmom. She should have had a cesarean. She should have been induced and not been allowed to go along as far as she was. And because of that, he ended up with quite a lot of brain damage. Now, the decision was made to switch his machines off because, honestly, he would have spent his life as a vegetable. That's not a life for anybody. Anyway, the decision was made to switch his machines off. And I was pregnant. I was like 6 months pregnant at the time. And he was only a few days old. And I remember, God, I really should have done this on the full moon. I just remember, it's the first time I'd ever had a panic attack. I've only had 2 panic attacks in my life, and that was the first one. because we were there, they switched his machines off, and it just took a long time for him to pass. And I don't know, I threw up, had a panic attack, and that was that. I was just not okay for the rest of my pregnancy. I think obviously I felt then, scared for myself. You just never know what's going to happen. I felt devastated for my parents, like my dad and my stepmom. And I honestly felt like, I know this is going to sound so fucked up, I just remember feeling like I didn't deserve to have him. I was just I shouldn't call myself a silly little whore, but essentially I was just, I had no intention of getting pregnant, didn't want a child, ended up pregnant by a guy who already had another girl pregnant. I just felt really shit for being pregnant. I felt like if anybody should have been having a baby, it wasn't me, it should have been them. And I don't know, the whole time was just really traumatic, to be honest with you. Anyway, so that had all happened, and so then that kind of, me going into labour, I guess was just scary. I mean, it's scary anyway, isn't it? Having a first child, having any fucking child, whenever you do it, it's just fucking scary. But I think having had all that happened just made it a lot scarier. It was just a really fucking shit time. Anyway, so let's get back to the labours. I ended up in labour, I think I was literally like 40 weeks, something like that. And if you're not like dilated enough in the UK anyway, they send you home. If you go to the hospital and you're in labour, if your vagina's basically not open enough, they're like, no, go home, chill out, come back when you're ready, because they don't want you hanging around there. Now, this seems crazy, but like actually when I was in labour for 47 hours with Rocco, right, and I'm so glad like at least 40 of those hours were not spent in the hospital. But yeah, that labour was crazy. They sent me home. I ended up going to TGI Fridays when that was still a thing. Went to Sainsbury's, and then obviously went back to hospital. Now, with regards to what I'd had, that was my first labour. I was having everything. I'm like, fucking give it to me. I felt like I was dying. So I'd had an epidural initially, and then I'd had like pethidine, I'd had the gas and air, I've had the TENS machine, and then it got to about 46 and a fucking half hours later, and they were like, you got to start pushing, right? Now, I didn't go to any birthing classes. I was like, what the fuck? So I'm trying to push, and it was so painful, and he literally was not coming out, and I was just going mental. They're going to me, you need to push. I'm like, you fucking push. I'm threatening. I was just, you can see what I'm like as a 40-year-old. You could imagine what I was like when I was 20. I was going fucking mental. Anyway, I couldn't do it. I couldn't push him out, I'm ashamed to say. Not ashamed to say, because it's a fucking hard job. But knowing what I know now, I could have pushed him out. I just didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Anyway, so couldn't push him out. And so they ended up basically prepping me for a C-section. And when they do that, they give you like double the epidural, because you've got to be like proper fucking dead from the waist down to go through that. So because they thought I was having that, they gave me like a double epidural. And in the end, they got him out with the salad forks. Like that's not the right word for it, but what's the tongs? What are they called? God, I've had far too many children to not know. What the forceps? Oh my days. They got him out with the forceps. Anyway, so that was Rocco. He was actually born 6 pounds 6, and he was born on the 22nd of the 2nd, 2005. And whilst I shouldn't be giving out his birthday on the internet, I just need you to know he was my first 222. He was, and we all know 222, well, you should know 222 is like a sign of great change. And that was probably the greatest change I ever went through. Like Rocco, he changed my life so much, but I'd definitely say he saved my life. Like, he gave me a reason for existence. He gave me a purpose. He gave me, like, I don't get all this, like, child-free shit now. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sat here now as a mother of 5, struggling every fucking day. I'm like, oh, child-free is a dream. But it's not. Like, I don't know. I guess I lacked a lot when I was younger. And I think, I don't know, I felt very depressed a lot. I felt very purposeless. I didn't have a reason to get out of bed. And then having Rocco, I just fell in love with him. He was like my first true love. And I just loved him so much. And he literally gave me a reason to live. He gave me a reason to want to carry on. And I think I needed that at that time. So I don't know, as fucking much as he annoys me, that's the balance, isn't it? God, he drives me insane now. If I could get an abortion on a 20-year-old, I fucking would. But I guess that's the balance. But yeah, he just literally came along and saved and changed my life. Anyway, that whole hospital experience was just diabolical. If you know anything about because of what had happened with my little bro, I didn't want to go to St Helier. That was my local hospital. It made sense to go there, but I was just like, I'll give birth in an alley before I fucking give birth there. So I'd actually ended up, and it's so funny when I tell you where I ended up, 'cause you're going to be like, really, Tamara? Like, what's fucking worse? But I ended up at, what is now called Croydon University Hospital, but it used to be called Mayday. They changed the name because people used to call it Mayday, yeah? It wasn't the best hospital. And because I'd had all these epidurals, they'd put him in like this little box thing, and it was no more than 6 feet for me, but I couldn't get it. And I'm ringing the bell and they weren't coming, and I just spent, it felt like fucking days, but it probably wasn't that long, but I just sat there crying because I couldn't get him. And I remember like, afterwards, I mean, not that I'm complaining, but the way I was getting stoned afterwards, not like that, but like, because of that I'm putting it down to the pethidine and the epidurals and everything, like, because I'd had all of that, I was fucked for a good 6 months, like, just super tired, lethargic. Tired and lethargy, they're the same thing, you know what I mean. I just didn't feel myself, and the thing is, I think if you haven't had a natural like labour, then you don't really have anything to compare it to. So that for me was, I'm like, well, this is just normal. It's only now then going on to have more children, I was like, well, that was not fucking normal at all. So I've not had any of that ever since with the rest of my labours. But yeah, that was just so interesting to see how that stuff like actually really affects you long term. Anyway, so that was Rocco, and it's going to seem like it was super traumatic because it took me 7 years to go on to have Amelia, but to be honest, I didn't even want children. This has all come from being told I couldn't have something. I'm not going to lie, I had some shit going on when I was younger, and was in and out of this and that, and they're like, oh, endometriosis. There was a lot that was going on, and they said at one point, they were like, oh, if it's this, you might have difficulty having children. And I was like, no, I want children. And bear in mind, up until that point, I was one of those like happy to be childless people. I've just lost my whole train of thought. Sorry, I can hear the kids upstairs. What the fuck was I saying? I was talking about being childless. Maybe that's why I've lost my train of thought, because I don't want to be childless, and you need to be careful what you say. But anyway, let me get back to this. It took me 7 years to basically have Amelia. Oh, that's what I was saying. They basically told me I couldn't have flipping children, and that's what made me want them, and I'd never really wanted them in the first place, so be careful what you wish for. But that's probably why I couldn't get that out, because that's a terrible thing to say. Because honestly, my children are my reason for everything. Like, even this, like, I only do everything I do to try and give them a better life. So, I don't know, they are, yeah, literally my world. But 7 years later, I had Amelia, and her pregnancy was probably one of the easiest, to be honest. And this is going to sound crazy, but now when I think back, I think it's because she was a girl. I think growing boys is just really, I've got 4 boys, 1 girl, and Amelia was my easiest pregnancy. And I do just think that was because, well, she's a girl. They're just nicer to deal with, like, in terms of our energies, if that makes any sense. Like, it's a feminine and a feminine energy. I think that's why I felt so fucking mental when I was pregnant with the boys, because you're like growing this masculine energy. I don't know, I could be wrong, and I could be just being weird, but for me, I felt like she was the easiest pregnancy because of that. Or maybe it was because, honestly, I didn't have other children to deal with. By that time, Rocco was 7, you know. He was not self-sufficient, but he wasn't a baby. He didn't need me like that. And I think I had a lot of time to just kind of relax into my pregnancy. But anyway, I did still have a lot of sickness, but I mean, at that point, that was just normal for being pregnant. Anyway, because of, obviously, did not want to go back to Croydon Hospital, still was not going back to St Helier either. I ended up having her at Kingston Hospital. And honestly, I had a great birthing experience there. Like, the birth experience was probably one of the best, and that was the first time I'd been introduced to the idea of a water birth. Now, I hadn't actually planned it, but when I got there, they were like, do you want to, they'd like had a new birthing suite or something opened, and it was just, they were like, do you want to get in the birthing pool? And I was like, oh yeah, I'll give that a try. And it was just the minute I sunk into that warm water, that was like all the pain relief I needed. And actually that was then my second pregnancy, that I didn't want all the drugs, and I just did the gas and air. But I feel like the gas and air and the hot water, those two are enough. I know if it might sound crazy, but those two are enough to get you through your labour. Anyways, I had a lovely labour with her. It was in a birthing pool. It was all very peaceful. It was all really lovely. However, it was afterwards when all the trauma came, because when I had Rocco, I was very uneducated and I didn't know anything. And when the doctors called and they were like, you need to take your child for his vaccinations, I was like, okay. And then I just took my child to be assaulted with neurotoxins without actually questioning or doing any research or finding anything out about it. And so, just to backtrack a bit, when I took Rocco for his first set of vaccines, it was almost like one of those, just those Matrix moments. I just suddenly zoomed out of my body, and I was like, they stabbed him in the leg with fuck knows what. And I just zoomed out. I was like, what have you just done? What have they just put in him? What? I was like, you did, I just suddenly started having a little bit of a meltdown. And so from there, I started researching, what's in vaccines, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to make this podcast about that. I'll do another podcast on that. But I had started researching. I was just like, no, not a child of mine ever fucking again. And so when I had Amelia, I was just adamant we wouldn't be having anything like that. And I refused the vitamin K. So if you're in the UK, when the child's born, you get offered this vitamin K, right? And I refused it. I was like, no. I was like, I'm breastfeeding. I'm going to eat loads of leaf. Like, you can make your own vitamin K, right? So I was like, no, I'm not doing it. Oh my God, they lost their fucking plot. They literally phoned the social services on me and tried to stop me from taking Amelia home because I'd refused the vitamin K. And everything just got really dark really quickly. Like, there is nothing like... The thing is, I know my stuff. And I knew enough to be able to back up what I was saying and why I didn't want it. But when you've just been battered, and you've just been, not battered like that, but when you've just been through a battering in labour, you're not on your best form. And I just didn't have any fight in me for these people. And to be honest with you, it's so hazy. I don't really remember what happened, but I do remember in the end, I agreed to give her the oral vitamin K. So there's two types. There's like a injection type, which I had read had been linked to like leukemia and other things, and I just didn't want it. But then there is like an oral version, which is apparently a lot cleaner. So to get myself out of hospital and save my child being taken by the bastard social services, I agreed to have this oral vitamin K. Anyway, it turns out afterwards, I found out that it had been really rare, but there had been a child that had been born at the same hospital, and they hadn't had the vitamin K and then died. And I think because of that, they were obviously all super paranoid, hence why they just phoned the social. Because I think, and this is again not against that hospital, because I genuinely think they were just trying to do what they thought was best, but it obviously was not what I thought was best, and we just clashed. And them, that being your experience when you've just given birth, like social services come in for you and you being that scared, like that's some fucked up shit. Like 10 out of 10 would not fucking do that again. But yeah, no, she was born in Kingston, and do you know what I've written here? It's funny because I'm talking and I'm supposed to be looking at these show notes and I'm getting all sorts of confused, but do you know what I've written here? Because she was my first natural birth. Like I said, I was just in the water and I had the gas and air, and the way I did this, I've written here, is I used my vagina opening like a flower method. Now, it's not my method, but if any of you used to watch Friends, there is an episode where Phoebe's gone to a birthing class and there's like this weird woo-woo woman, and she's like, you've got to imagine your vagina opening like a flower. And that has always stuck in my head. So I remember being on that gas and air, and the point where like you get so high, like oblivion starts to occur, and you're also having a contraction. In that moment, this is going to sound crazy, but it's all relative to manifestation, I literally was just imagining my birth canal, my vagina, opening like a vagina. And I shit you not, and I swear this to you on Amelia's life. You know I got her out in 2 pushes. 2 fucking pushes, and I got Amelia out by using my vagina opening like a flower method, right? That I stole from friends. Your body is so capable and so clever and so fucking cool. Like, they just... I don't know. I sometimes wonder if they give us all these other drugs to make us not realise our power. I mean, I'm not saying I'm there yet where I could, like, go and give birth in a river or something. But bit of gas in air, bit of warm water, I'm fucking good to go. Anyway, so that was that was Amelia's birth. That whole time was just a bit of a funny time. Obviously Amelia's dad, if you remember back to, I'd said previously, like when I got pregnant with Amelia, he was the one who wanted a child. I wasn't. I didn't want another child. I'd had a Rocco and I was fine. He wanted a child, pushed for a child, got pregnant with the child, and then his dad died, literally. This all happened within 2 days. Well, his dad died, and then we found out I was pregnant like a few days later. And he was just like, I can't do this. So I'm just like, oh my fucking God, am I on my own again? Am I on my own again? Yes, I fucking was. And honestly, we weren't getting on. Like, we did not get on at all. And things were very bad. He'd been cheating and there was stuff going on. And the only reason... We basically hadn't had sex since before we'd had Amelia. And when I got pregnant with Neo, it was a one-time thing. You know, we haven't had sex since I got pregnant with Neo, right? And the only reason we had that sex was because he had been arrested. Something had happened and we were both... I just remember there was a sense of like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're not in jail. And we ended up having sex, and that sex made Neo. You know, some kids are just meant to be in the world because that... Anyway... But again, anyway, so I've ended up pregnant with Neo quite quickly. I think they call the kids Irish twins because they're like 18 months apart. But I got pregnant with Neo, and that pregnancy was absolutely terrible. That was a pregnancy I got something called SPD, which is severe pelvis dysfunction, and I ended up having to stay at my mum's for a while because I was literally bedbound, couldn't fucking walk. It's like you take a step and this just collapses. But anyway, I was in agony, and on top of that, at this point, his dad had proper started cheating. He was taking my car to go and cheat on me. He was not taking my money like that, but I was giving him money for certain things. And he was just taking the living piss out of my life. And I knew he was cheating on me. I'm not going to go into that now. In fact, I've told this story before, but I knew he was cheating on me. And he just lied and made me think I was mental the whole entirety of my pregnancy, and told everybody I was fucking mental, right? To the point where I actually thought I was mental. Like, I was even questioning my own fucking self. But no, I was not fucking wrong. He was actually cheating on me, which all came out when Neo was 8 months old. But anyway... Let's not fucking digress. But I ended up having Neo at what... Do you know what? Again, back to the whole never going to St Helier again. I've just been picking... Because then of what had happened at Kingston, I'm not fucking going back there again. So there's only so many bloody hospitals left. So I'd actually decided to have him at Epsom, right? I shit you not. The day I'd gone into labour, Epsom closed down their maternity wing for refurbishment. And so where did they send me? St Helier. I was not okay. The last thing I wanted to do was be at St Helier. And I can get this out now because I was just getting too emotional earlier. But what I didn't mention, and why I'm so angry at St Helier, because it's not just like this happened to my brother. That's where Lottie, well, she didn't die there, but that's where Lottie was born. And it was due to their negligence and incompetence again. And what they allowed happen to Stacey, which is why Lottie ended up the way she was. And that's not a fucking coincidence. And we also know somebody else who had a child who ended up, she only lived till I think 10 maybe, but again at the hands of St Helier. That hospital should be knocked down. It should be burnt down. It shouldn't even fucking exist. Anyway, so at that point, again, I would have rather fucking given birth in a jungle, but I had no choice but to go to St Helier. And do you know what's wild? This actually ended up being one of my best birthing experiences. And I am pained to fucking admit that, to be honest with you, but it was one of my best birthing experiences. They gave me a water birth. Again, I think it's the waters. For me, the water birth is everything. Like, if I could give you any advice on what to do in your labour, or like what your labour plan to be, get in that water. Like, I wouldn't even say do it at home. Fuck a home birth, by the way. Let me just say this right now. I am all earth, hippie mum, blah, blah, blah. There are some good parts to the NHS, yeah? This thing where you think, I want to give birth and bleed over if you haven't given birth, you might not know, but you know after you give birth, there's blood up the fucking walls, right? It looks like a murder scene. I don't want that in my house. I just want to go to hospital, have my baby, be really grateful someone's going to clean up that shit, and then take my clean baby home, back to my clean house. I don't get this whole home birth thing, but the water birth thing, yes, all day. I would, if I had to do it again, I would have a water birth. Actually, if I had to do it again, I'd jump off a cliff. But in my next life, I would definitely say have a water birth. Anyway, again, it was just gas and air. I did it again in another 2 pushes. It was technically 3 pushes, but that was only because my cousin had decided, who was my labour partner, to go to the toilet just as I'd started pushing. So I could have got him out on the second push, but I kind of like sucked him back up a little bit because I was like, where's Holly? She come out the toilet, and then I was like, phew, and he just come out. So at this point, I felt like I was a fucking champion birther. Anyway, he was, oh, do you know what? This just goes from... Anyway, he was born, again, normal time, about 40 weeks, but he only weighed 4 pounds fucking 2, and I was literally broken. I honestly thought I'd nearly killed him, and by some magic, he was a point under what you need to be admitted to the neonatal, point over what you need to be admitted to the neonatal. So like if he had come out 4'1", he would have had to have gone into neonatal. The fact he was 4'2", I got to keep him. I've got a picture of me holding Neo like this in my fucking hand, right? Anyway, do you know what? I'm not even going to get upset about this. Let's just keep this fucking positive. To be honest with you, that was probably my first... not real understanding of manifestation. No, yeah, kind of really understanding manifestation and understanding my own power, because I had obviously planned to breastfeed, and most babies lose weight in the first week, but especially breastfed babies. You're not going to have a breastfed baby that weighs like 6 pounds and then you go back and he's going to weigh like 6 foot. He's going to go down, right? Or at least this is what the science says. But science does not beat the power of fucking my thought, right? Because I was so devastated that he was so small. And I knew it was all due to stress. I had been so stressed because obviously his dad was cheating on me. I was just fucked. It was not a good time. All that bloody... I don't know, whatever. Anyway, I just remember saying to them, I am going to make him put on weight. And they were like, no, you're not. It's okay. Like, that wouldn't happen. Don't worry about it. Just bring him back next week for a weighing. I took him back the next week and the boy had put on weight. He literally had put on weight. And do you know what? He went on to be the chunkiest little monkey. He was just, I've got pictures of him. He just got like flipping rolls and rolls and rolls. And we're not a big family. But I put that down to the fact I was literally breastfeeding him, just putting fat into him, like make him bigger, make him bigger, make him strong, make him strong, make him bigger, make him strong. And now Neo he's probably he's the most solid kid I've got. Like, he's proper, like, built like a, what is it they say, brick shit house or whatever. Like, he's solid. And that really made me see my power, because you're not going to tell me I can't do something. Especially with that, when you team, like, love with passion, you're so much more capable. Because I made him put on weight, and he continued to put on weight from there. He never once dropped weight, and like I said, he went on to be my fattest baby, which I was very flipping proud of. Anyway, so that was my 3rd pregnancy and birth. And honestly, because that birth was so good at St Helier, I stupidly agreed to go and have my 4th baby there. That was a big mistake, like actually a really big mistake. I was basically, I don't even know if I can write this now. I said this word the other day and someone got angry at me, but I was basically given a 12-year-old transgender who was newly qualified and had no clue. She must have been about 20, 21. She was very new to the job. I think she'd just like come out of training, and she just had no idea what the fuck she was doing. And they put you have to like get monitored before you go into the birthing pool, right? So I've got the belly belt on, the thing that measures the heartbeat. And every time I'm having a contraction, the baby's going crazy. And she's like, oh my God, the baby's in distress. We've got to get the baby out. And I'm like, The baby's not in distress. Like, I'm distressed and I'm the baby's house, yeah? So obviously every time I'm having a fucking contraction, which by the way hurts a lot, the baby is going to, we're connected, dude. Like, the baby is going to feel that. The baby's not just going to sit there like, oh, so relaxing. It's going to feel. And I said, and I was just trying to, like, really get across to her, like, the fact that this wouldn't be fucking happening. This is only happening when I'm having contractions. The baby's not in distress any other time except for when the contractions come. She's adamant the baby's gonna fucking... She basically made me think the baby was gonna die. And I have told this story before, because this is when I stupidly was like, was it the spliff I smoked earlier? That was it. Social services were getting called again, weren't they? When I'd finished giving birth. Fuck, that birth was terrible, by the way. I don't even want to talk. That birth was terrible. First of all, his dad was there. This is Rocco's dad and the younger two's dad. He was just staring at me going... You just need to get on with it. Just got to be strong. I made them take him out. I was like, I'm gonna fucking kill him. Oh, I hate him so much. I literally hate him so much. Anyway, he was there just telling me I've got to be strong. And she's there telling me my baby's gonna fucking die. Anyway, so they wouldn't let me in the birthing pool because they're saying the baby's in distress. I couldn't get in the birthing pool, and I've ended up having to just push him out in that terrible fucking... I think I got on all fours in the end. You can't make me give birth on my back. Fuck you, I'll give birth on your head. But I'd got on all fours and got him out. But that was traumatic, not having the water. And then I said to them, well, just give me the fucking drugs then, like, because I can't just deal with the gas and air. So I thought, and they were like, no, it's too late for that. And that was it. I just had to use the gas and air and get on all fours and fucking get on with it. And that was probably one of my worst fucking births. And I was so pissed off because, again, when I'd come round, at this point, a nice qualified fucking midwife had come along. And she was like, I don't know what you said when you were in labour, but unfortunately now we've got to set certain things in motion, like, i.e. the social services is going to get called and you're in a fucking pickle. I've told that story before, so I'm not going to go into that. Let me not bore you. But yeah, that was fucking that. And yeah, to be honest, I was back to hating St Helier after that. And again, never again. And that was, yeah, we are coming close to the end of my pregnancy, guys. It's been a wild ride. Anyway, my final bambino was Kale. Honestly, Kale... Actually, no, why have I said Kale was... Kale was my worst birth, but more worse mentally, not physically, if that makes any sense. It was a lot quicker than my first birth. In fact, a lot quicker. But if you followed me for a long time, you'll remember when I was pregnant with Kale, I was not okay. I will openly admit I just wanted to die every day. I was suicidal. I wanted an abortion, couldn't have an abortion type of thing. It was just a diabolical time of my life. I don't know. I just genuinely felt terrible and I hated him. Like, and it's horrible to even say that out loud, but I hated him. Every day just praying something bad would happen, or I'd just fall down the stairs, or even thinking about flinging myself down the stairs. Like, and this all sounds really horrible to say, but I don't lie to you guys, and this is fucking real life. Like, I knew at that point, I think with all my other pregnancies, even though I'd been on my own, I'd kind of like deluded myself into thinking everything would be okay. Like, all I'd ever really wanted was a family, and I thought, everything will be fine. That was not the fucking case. And I just knew at that point, you're raising 5 children alone. You are raising them alone. That is going to be a reality. And I couldn't face that fucking reality. I'll be perfectly honest with you. And so I spent every day basically suicidal, hating Kale, and I don't know, he wouldn't come out. Because it wasn't about the pain, because I had the gas and air and I was back in the water pool. This is when I'd managed to get back to Epsom. They'd reopened their maternity wing at this point. It was all lovely. And he literally wouldn't come out. Now, bear in mind at this point, I think I'm a level 10 fucking birthing expert, because I've done 2 pushes. I think I did night in a couple of pushes as well, even though I had to do it without being in the water. So at this point, I think I'm some champion birther. But he wouldn't come out. He would not come out. When it comes to the point where they were saying push, I am pushing. And when I tell you, every time I've done the vagina opening like a flower method, it's opened, the baby slipped out. This time it wouldn't come out. I could feel the block. Literally, it was just not fucking coming out. Obviously, I'm on the gas and air, off my fucking tits. And I was just like, he don't want to come because he knows I don't want him. And I just remember getting so upset. I'm like, he knows I don't want him. And I think my mum was there, and I'm like, tell him I want him to come. Tell him. Oh God, I'm going to get all upset. I was like, tell him I want him to come. And Oh God, note to self, never fucking film a podcast on a full moon again. But I was just saying to my mum, like, and the nurses, like, tell him it's safe, tell him I love him, tell him I want him to come. And then he fucking popped out. And honestly, like, I don't know. Life's weird, isn't it? This weird shit happens. I don't even know what to tell you. I mean, maybe he wasn't coming out for some other reason, but the minute I was just like, let him know I want him, he came out. And I mean, honestly, it was a bit of a lie, but I think he just needed to fucking hear it. Anyway. So yeah, so that's that. And do you know what? I'm going to wrap up by saying it wasn't a good pregnancy with him. Even when I had him, I think the first year of having Kale, I just didn't want it. I didn't want any of it. But now, he's 6 now. Can't even believe that time's gone so quickly. And he's my favourite child. Hand on heart, he's my favourite child. And do you know what? Don't be like, oh, Tamara, you're out of order. Why are you having favourites? First of all, the rest of them need to work harder. Yeah. Second of all, we'd all be liars if we said we didn't have favourite kids, right? Whatever. He's my favourite kid. And not only is he my favourite kid, he's my best friend. Like, that kid, the way he has my back, the way he cares about me, the way I'll be asleep on the sofa and he will come and put a blanket on me and he asks how I am and I don't know, that kid has my back differently compared to my other children. Honestly, he is genuinely my best friend. And like, you can have a conversation with Kale. He's so fucking clever. So fucking clever. Anyway, I just wanted to finish it on that because I guess that is the balance, isn't it? You know, I always say this, what goes up must come down. For everything that's terrible, there's going to be something wonderful. And I think that being my worst pregnancy and birth then led to literally being my best kid. So, and again, I know that's a terrible thing to say, but they can't hear me, remember that. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. I finished this by saying, anyway, 10 out of 10, would not recommend pregnancy, birth, or even kids, but equally, it's the best shit I've ever done. My kids are my purpose, my reason to breathe, and seriously, my kids are my joy. And they honestly are. Like I said, them pushing this child-free thing, I think we all know what agenda it serves, don't we? And it's certainly not our agenda. And it's not easy. It's not easy. You see me here now, desperately. I'm like, oh my God, I've got to go make dinner. And the kids are all locked upstairs. Like, not locked up like that, but I'm like, don't make a fucking sound. You see, it's not the easiest, but it's fucking rewarding. Nothing actually worth having comes easy. I've realised that. And yeah, this has been difficult at times. And there are days where I really question what the fuck I was even thinking. But for the most part, we have a good little life. We have a good little family. And I don't know. There are some members of my family who are great, but like my immediate family, I've never met my dad, and my mum leaves a lot to be desired. And I think I just realised a long time ago, if you want a good family, you're going to have to fucking make one, and that's what I've done. So yeah, as difficult as it can be, I fucking wouldn't change it for the world. And like I said, 10 out of 10 would not recommend, but I still think you should do it. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask them. I'm just going to end this by saying again, thank you about the NMN, because I don't know, this has been a journey, and like I said, everything I do for my children, and it's really you lot that keep my children alive. Like, it is, without you guys supporting me in everything I do and this podcast and everything, it would just, I don't actually know what would become of us, to be honest with you, but I just want you to know I am eternally grateful. Anyway, I'm going to go. If you can, put your pre-orders in, please. We are shipping this NMN beginning the middle of July, and I can't wait to get this stuff to you, all right? I'm super excited. Anyway, going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for listening. Sorry I got a little bit emotional. Do not worry about me. I am good. It is just the full moon. And hey, this is what this is for. We let this stuff come up and we let it out, and then we can move forward lighter. I think I should just end the podcast. Anyway, I'm going to go. Enough waffling for one day. I love you so much. I'll speak to you soon. Mwah.